Right, it's been a little bit of a while since I've made any gun videos, so I might be a little bit rusty on it. Anyway, this is the revival of what some might call a necro project. It's my old Airsoft BAR, Browning automatic rifle, 1918 A2. Now, you may remember that I did manage to do some test firing of it, but it was really sort of cobbled together to just make sure that the hop mechanism was working and so on. So a little bit of a review of where I was up to and how I did it all. Basically, this is a real World War II BAR, 30 caliber, yeah. Right, so with bipod, carry handle and so on. Now basically, during World War II, I believe they used to dump all these items because they were just a bit of a pain in the arse. You can imagine if you were probably firing this and somehow you'd be in an awkward angle and that would flip in front of the sights or something like that, yeah, and that bipod on the front of the barrel would be popping undone and dangling all over the place and jamming it whenever you tried to poke it into a small gap to fire at someone. The bloody bipod would be in the way, so they were just a bit of dead weight, so they tended to skim them down to the basic big chunky rifle, as is what I'm basically doing. So what I've used inside here is an Airsoft M14 gearbox made by Cyma, whatever you want to, however you want to pronounce it, CYMA, yeah. And I've built the all the steel parts are made out of steel, as it should be. I've used a sight off eBay, is it called the Lyman sight, is it? It's probably off an Enfield or something, but I'll probably only be using it in its down position. There's a small spring I've got under there to sort of toggle it, put some tension on it, but it's nicest when it's in its down position. I've still got to fix a little securing point on that side there to make sure that this doesn't drift out. If you watch that, see? So basically what it is there's a thread running through the back of the sight there, and when I wind that will move left and right, so it needs something over that side of the sight to keep it captive. What I might just do is put a washer on it and quick tap with a welder, and job's a good one. If it was a little bit heavier, I'd try and put a line round there and put some sort of circlip on it, or try and drill a very tiny hole through it and put a split pin through. But neither of those things are very easy to do when the threaded when the screw that you're working on is about 3mm across, something like that, you know. So I'd need a very small drill, maybe put a small piece of wire through it, wire lock it. Now you going back over the recaps here, the way I've done this is I made the butt in 2 halves and bonded it together. You can't really see the bond, just about there you can see a little bit where the join is. So inside here, the reason I made it in 2 halves is because I've got a hole running all the way through here, and to get that hole straight you can't really go trying to drill all the way through the stock. with a 20mm hole. So what I've done is I've made it in two halves. Here I have a screw normally, but I've taken that out, and that screws in the end of a bung in the end of a pipe which runs right the way through this butt. Now all these swivels and so on are all homemade. There's the real ones, yeah, and here's mine. They sort of look good enough. Some of the welding needs tidying up here. Now, to get this gearbox in, what I had to do was I had to design a receiver where I could slide an M14 gearbox into. So whereas on the original one it's nice and simple, and it's just it's two sides, and then the trigger mechanism is dropped in here, you see. So what I've done is, on this machining line running around here, I've basically done a cheat on this, and I've put a second piece of metal in here, and that enables me to have a wide enough aperture to drop the M14 gearbox into. Now I've had this this on show at a few shows, and I've got a repair to do on the magazine, because like this is a heavy rifle. It's probably about, I don't know, I'll just take a guess, it's probably about 4 or 5 kilos, and someone has obviously picked this up and then dumped it down on the bottom of the magazine, which is what you don't do on an airsoft gun, especially when it's got a ratchet mag. And basically they've thumped it down on the wheel, 4 kilos down on the ratchet wheel, and shattered the mounting in the bottom of there, yeah, you know where it has the small nut in the bottom of the M14. So I've got to do a repair on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole. I'm going to take this plastic mechanism out, drill a hole in that way further down, and then have a aluminium square bar going through it with a threaded hole in, so that when I put the screw back in, it's not going to shatter out the bottom like it's done here. It's going to have a little bit more strength to it, because it's going to be a screw going through the base plate of the mag and right down and into some aluminium stock, which is further down inside the mag, so it'll be a stronger fixing. Of course, if someone slams it down next time, they might just break the wheel mechanism instead of breaking off the nut mounting there. You can't get round. There's always going to be someone who treats something in the wrong way. You can never work out every eventuality, can you? I'd have to make all the mechanism out of bloody steel so that people don't abuse it. But I can't realistically be going along that line. Now, okay, so it's got the M14 gearbox in here. The hop unit is the one I made, which is made out of brass and copper with a nice little hop rubber inside there. And to adjust it, there's a little brass screw in the top of there, which I've cut some little serrations in around the edge, and basically you poke that with a screwdriver or a twig or whatever you've damn well got to hand, and you turn it one way or the other. But in general, hops shouldn't go out of adjustment that much, especially if it's designed the way I have here. In this piece of copper I've actually got a spring-loaded rod or ball bearing which is pushing that way, up against the wheel, if I remember right. It's been a while, you can probably hardly see it in there, but if I remember right, that's what I did. So that holds the wheel and stops it from turning. Right, the latest thing I've just done in the past couple of days is eventually I got round to working out how to make the magazine catch. Now if we look at the real gun, see, there's the magazine catch, and this is the point where I normally need a extra hand and an extra arm, and normally opt to try and get the bipod right. So I've managed it. Now basically the mag catchers operate on clipping into this little lug here. See this little notch, I should say, on the back of the mag. So that's where they lock. And let's see if we can see in here. We get that light. I think I need some more lighting in here. I think you can just about make that out. I'm watching on a very small screen on my camcorder here. Yeah, so when I push that pin there, it brings the top end of that and swings it back. So that's how it functions. So I had to work out how to make one of those. That mechanism in there. So I started doing this a good while ago and got a little bit confused exactly as to how to do it. Anyway, there we go. I've done the same trick again. I've managed to take this out. Now this is a proper BAR magazine casing. Then I've fitted an M14 magazine inside it. You can see this front piece here is the extra piece, the dead section, which is just taking up the space. So there's your M14 from there to there. So if you look at that, that gives you an idea. If you look at the bottom, what I've managed to do is I have managed, what the hell did I do? I managed to put a bend in the feed tube which runs up inside it, using a blowtorch. I slightly warmed up the plastic and put a little bend in it, and I put a little cut in the internal mechanism as well, so that I could swing the bottom of this over to this side, out of line with the top of it, if you see what I mean. See, it's at the rear here, but down here it's at the front. Anyway, getting back to our M14. Now this is my version here. Yeah, you can see that operating. Yeah, quite easy. I've only done this in the past 2 days. It's a little bit loose, that spring, but it does work okay once the mag's in. It holds it, does the job, but I can put a beefier spring in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this down and show you how I worked out in the end how to do this magazine catch. Now you can see the bottom of my brass hop unit down there. Now I started making this one, when was it? Probably 2010. and I made good time with it. And then what happened was I ordered a stainless steel barrel for it from China, Hong Kong, China, whatever, and it took about 3 months to arrive, if not more, 3 or 4 months. And well, I had other things I wanted to get on with, like making the towed anti-tank gun, the M3 anti-tank gun, the 37mm. So I wanted to get on with that, so this was put on hold. And then one thing after another, a few radio sets for the Jeep, and then, oh yeah, I changed the Jeep and all sorts of things. I've got a different Jeep now, so loads of things got in the way in between doing this. Anyway, so to take this stock off, let's see, if I move the camera to my other hand, I might just be able to give this a thump and knock this off. Let's see, if we leave, the weight of the gun should hold that on the bed, and then give it that a little thump about there. That'll be a bit more. See, it'd be easier if I had the tripod out, but if I'm lucky, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera down, probably on an angle where you can still see, and now I'm going to slide that off. So there you are. In fact, with this strap on, with this sling on, I'm not actually going to take oh, camera's gone into zoom or something. Back that off. Right, okay, I'm not going to actually slide that off, but you can see there's a tube running all the way through this stock, very much like the real ones had, because the real one had a tube running through and it had the spring inside for the bolt to operate on. So if I swing this one over, if I pull back on that there, the cocking bolt, like so, now that is actually tensioned a spring which, from what I remember, runs all the way through inside this stock. You can research that if you want. If you don't believe me, you can probably find some pictures of that on the web somewhere. Yeah, so now I will be showing you some details about this part in a minute, but for now, yeah, for now we'll just fire it like that. Didn't go off, no. Right, okay, so we have, this is a nail which is here, temporary. Now that is going to be replaced by this little gadget here. See that? And that slides out exactly how mine's going to do. Yeah, so it's got that little clip part there which slides into there, and then it fits into this little hole here, this little end here. So what I'll do is I'll get a piece of steel plate and I'll centre punch that so it's got a dent in one end, and it'll clip into a little slightly drilled out hollow in the side of the receiver. So that's going to be replicated on this side here. Now here's where we start to strip this down. Okay, nail comes out, pin we'll say, okay, give it a real name. Right, now you can see straight away after I've taken that off, the gearbox is wanting to come out. Now you can see here, this will come out very easily, like so. So there's the gearbox, there's my nice little brass hop mechanism. and if I slowly pull that back, no, I don't think that will actually come away, the barrel. So I'm going to leave the barrel in there. You see, when you put one of these in, you should always have a little spring at the front between the outer barrel and the hop. So there we go, puts a little bit of back pressure against the gearbox. So as I say, there you go, standard Keimer M14 gearbox. All I've probably had to do, if anything, yeah, is see here on the side of the motor cradle, it has these little little fins where normally I think the wires are held and run through, or at least I think that's what they're for. Now, because I'm working very close in here, getting it in, I've had to grind them back a little bit. So we should be able to slip that back in like so, and you can see there's not very much movement between the two sides of that casing. Yeah, still got the standard trigger. Eventually I might get some aluminium solder, Lumi weld, and reshape the trigger on this, make it a little, come down a little bit and reprofile it so it looks more like the real one. You see, that's the M14 trigger. So okay, here is my base section of the receiver, the trigger housing and so on, and that point there, see where there's the little hole in the top of it, that locates on that little mounting hole there on the gearbox. Now, I was going to originally try and put a screw into there with a washer on, but there's just no way I can get a screwdriver. Once that's down inside there, there's no way I can get a screw in and out on there. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to build that up a little bit. I'm going to put a screw in there with quite a large head on it, or I'm going to make it cut a little piece of piping the same diameter. It's about 6mm. They're about the size of a BB. Cut a little piece of 6mm piping and then run a screw all the way down inside it, so it basically lengthens that, and when you put this in, that will just clip over the top of it and hold the gearbox in position with the lower receiver. Now, there we are. There's our mechanism. So I was quite a while thinking on different ways how to do that, how to make that work, and well, it looks a very simple thing, doesn't it? And I suppose it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do this without getting the tripod out. There we go. I only made this yesterday. There are a number of ways it could have been done, but I'm relatively happy with how this one's worked out. Now, there we go. There's my mechanism. Quite crude in it, really, but there you are. See, there's the pin. Now the pin is on a little swivel in the centre there, because it's got a split pin running through it, and you can see how we've done this. It's an angled piece of metal which fits inside this recess. See, there's the recess. I basically had that hole, and I had to try and work out how I could make a mechanism that would work in there, which was easy to take in and out, and would function correctly. So in the end I thought, well, hang on, I'll put a screw in through the top, because I've got a gap inside the casing where the motor doesn't touch this area, well, sorry, the gearbox doesn't touch this area. So I've basically worked out, starting off, I made a piece of metal which fitted in, inside that way there, because obviously this is curved and tapered, yeah. So basically the shape on the bottom is near enough the same as the part at the top, yeah. So I made that piece of angled metal with that like fluted top to it. I put that in, and then I drilled a hole right through the top and tapped an M5 thread through it, and then from there I tried to work out the mechanism to be fitted inside it. Now there is a, well, I'll go into that in a moment. There's a little refinement that I might be making on this. Now basically you can see the shape of this thing. It's quite unusual, I suppose, but yeah, it's sort of, what would you say, it's not like a J, it's like a Z, elongated Z shape. So what I've basically done here is I started off with, let's see, I put that like so. I started off with, let me use a screwdriver, started off with this piece of flat bar which runs across and then goes upwards in like an L shape. Then what I've done is I've welded on the side of it in there to build that out, that little area there. Then I've drilled a hole through there, and I've just put, I think it was just, well, I don't know, a piece of round bar, and then I've just MIG welded on the two sides of it, see, and then ground it back. Then what I've done on the top of this here is where it came up here, I've then welded an old nail onto the side of it and filed it all into shape, yeah. So I've also built the top of this. This was all about, it was a bar about 4mm thick, this piece of flat bar, and then I've welded on a few points, ground it back into shape, and then drilled holes through to thicken the points up where I've added extra bits. Now this here is another piece of round bar, and what I've just done is I've cut a square of metal out, and I've nicked out the four corners with some tin snips, bent two flaps upwards and two flaps downwards, and Bob's your uncle. There's our mechanism. So basically when the mag goes in, it compresses the spring there, yeah, and if you want to compress it further to release the magazine, you push the pin here, which releases the mechanism further. Anyway, that's quite simple, isn't it? Right, the next thing I'm working on now is the dummy cocking bolt on the side. Just cock it back again. What I'm using for that is some pieces of draw tracking. Now these two are not the same as what I've used. If you get the right pieces, you get a piece which has got one folded edge to it. So basically, if you were to have a piece of this track with two extra folds on the top coming inwards, sort of like duplicating what that's doing there, yeah, so you want to form a channel, don't you? So I thought the nearest thing we've got is draw track, but the problem is you've only got this piece here doesn't have any folded edge coming back in on it, so that's not really of any use. Although what you could do, if you got a piece of this, is you could put a piece of flat bar in there. This was going to be my other option, a piece of flat bar inside there. You could possibly hold it in with some G-clamps, or you could drill some holes through the flat bar and clamp it with these through these holes. Then basically hammer the edge over onto your flat bar. So that would work quite well. Maybe I should have done that. But anyway, I haven't gone for that idea. I've gone for something slightly different. So what I've done is I've used the piece of track where it's got a folded edge, and I've chopped the track up, and effectively I've built this. So what I'm going to do, you can see here, there's our folded edge, see, our channel. So what I'm going to do is this slot down the centre. See, this is two sides going back. This one side here formed one side on one of these tracks, and the other side was on the mirror image track to it. So I've had to do this. So I've had to saw right down the centre of it and saw across. Then what I've done is I've put a piece of steel bent over in a, it's not particularly perfectly half round there, is it, and everything, but I think by the time it's welded on the side and blued, I think it'll look quite good. Well, I hope so. So if we put that there, this is a little bit prouder than the real one would be. As I say, what I probably should have done is done what I was mentioning a few minutes ago and put a flat bar inside here and then just hammered the sides over, and that probably would have given me more of an accurate shape to it. But I think this will look alright, to be honest with you. It's a little bit deeper, but yeah, it'll do the job. So basically that slot down the centre is where I'm going to weld it down to the gun. So that's going to be, put that out the way over here. So that's going to fit on the side just around there and be welded down the inside in that gap. Then I'm going to build up a bolt which will slide inside it. Now the profile of the bolt should look like this, and you see it has this little pin. Now that's actually spring loaded, and if we slide this forward, see how the pin slides upwards and then clips down, and that's what locks our cocking bolt in position. So I'm probably going to have a go at making that. You see how the pin rises at the top here? So there's a spring inside there which is pushing that down. Now I don't want mine to slide right off the end, so when it comes back down here, I'm probably going to try and weld two little raised sections on the back so that the thing just doesn't slide right off the back. And hopefully if I did want to remove it, I could basically get a screwdriver under there and lift the pin up high enough, or knock the pin out sideways, depending on how I make it. It could be that I'll make it with a roll pin which runs through there, and you can hammer it out. Yeah. So basically I'm going to use that to lock that in there. I don't think I'm going to have a spring inside there, because I think it's going to be a little bit hard to get it all in. It could be that I'll be able to. If you think about it, see, because I've main died deeper, what I can probably do is I can have a hidden spring inside, which enables me to just pull it back a certain distance, maybe 2 inches, and then have the spring push it back again, you know. So just so it looks a little bit more correct. I might be able to hide a spring in the base, and you know. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right at the moment. So there's my update on what I've been doing, and yeah, let me know what you think. And yeah, I know a few people have actually worked on these, making just in air replicas using the same stages that I've gone through. So some people have probably gone ahead and worked out how to make the magazine catch while I've been waiting around. But obviously if you're making a inert replica, you don't have the same problems as trying to make a functioning airsoft gun, where everything's got to be compact and work around airsoft mechanisms. Yeah, one other thing which I haven't mentioned in my recap is the battery on this isn't going in the buttstock, where many people would think I would put it. It's actually going inside the gas pipe here. I've had a custom nickel metal hydride stick battery made, and the gun's metalwork is actually going to, or at least the plan is, the gun's metalwork is going to conduct one path of the electricity. So from this end of the battery here, the gun's casing is actually going to be live and conduct the power back. Then at the other end of the battery here, there's just going to be one wire coming off and running through to the gearbox and so on. What I probably will be trying to do is the end cap here, which screws on and off. This is just wiring conduit, as you can see there. That's still galvanized. I might replace it with a black one, yeah, you know, a blued one. But what I'll probably try and do is work out some way of putting a fuse inside the battery tensioning cap, so that, you know, it's just a way of putting a you know, a glass fuse in. So put it in there so that I just need to take the cap off and do it, and that'll do it. Obviously there's got to be a spring inside here as well to put tension against the battery. Yeah, so that's it, guys. Now I'll just start putting this back together. I've probably done enough on this for today. When I next get a chance to do it, might be next weekend. Might get this welded on the side. Don't know.